My name is Papa Kwame Amo, and most people call me Mr. Smooth, and I am doing communication in marriage. I am a counselor and a sex coach, and I am the host of Adult Class on GNTV and ATV. And I've been on many other radio stations teaching relationships and coaching people in their sex life. Today I would want to talk to you about communication in marriage. In actual fact, the mindset about your marriage is very, very important. The mindset that you take into your marriage is very, very important. God has given us all the power to control and direct our minds to whatever that we desire. But how we direct our minds in our marriages is all in our hands. If you say he or she cannot be changed, how do you expect a change from that person when you're already saying the person can never change? Being positive, like you were from the very beginning, when you met each other and you were so positive about this marriage, about the relationship, is key to bringing the spark back into that relationship that is getting so bad now. If you continue to focus on the negativities and the negative things that are happening in your relationship at the moment, how do you expect anything positive to come out of it? As a man thinketh, so he is. So like minds would attract each other. So positive attitude would attract positive attitude, and negative attitude would also attract negative attitude. So be positive in all times. Your husband or your wife is the best in the world. Your wife is the best in the world. Your husband is the best in the world. You never know until you step out and find that everybody comes with a package. And every relationship goes through stages. And until you understand these, you continue to blame, complain, and never have things going the way that you expect. So it is important that you take what I am saying very, very seriously. Whatever change you expect in the relationship, that change should come from you. What were your experiences and expectations before you got married? These are questions you should ask yourself. What are you expecting now in the marriage? What has gone wrong so far? What could you have done that you didn't do? What could your partner have done that your partner didn't do? To change yourself so things will get better in your marriage. Or it is all about finding faults and complaining and blaming your spouse, and all you are thinking about is your spouse who should change. If you want a positive change in your relationship, you should be that influence. You should change and have your spouse also change, because when you change, that change will influence your spouse to also change. No one is perfect. We have all made mistakes in our lives. The only thing you need to do is to learn from your mistakes, better the good ones, and use the errors you committed as a yardstick to become better. We should all aspire to become better in our relationships. We should all aspire to become better at whatever that we intend doing. Never be happy when things are not going well. To be able to master your mind and not allow your mind to master you, you need to make the person that you are with your best friend. no matter how difficult it is, that is the person you decided to spend the rest of your life with. No matter the person's shortcomings, you chose that person to be with. So you should make that person your best friend. One of the things that is destroying relationships, mobile phones. Sit with your partner and agree on how you want to use your mobile phones. If any of you agree that it should be private, so be it, and respect it. Respect each other's opinion. When both of you decide that you are going to share your phones, respect that. Sharing and transparency in marriage is key to bringing peace and happiness to you in your home. And if you really want to become happy in your home, communication is the most important thing that you both should look at. One of the things that most people do not know is love is not a feeling. You have to communicate love. You have to act love. And if we go back to the good book, it says that love is patient, love is kind, love is not jealous or envious, love is not boastful or proud, love is not arrogant, love is not rude, love is not self-seeking, love is not easily angered. These things are not feelings. Love does not hold on grudge. Love doesn't delight in evil. Love rejoices in the truth. Love protects, love trusts, love hopes, love preserves, and love never fails. All these attributes of love have nothing to do with feeling. It has nothing to do with doing something and expecting something in return. So we have confused the concept of love and lust for too long. And if you love somebody, these are the attributes. You should be patient, you should be kind. If you didn't know, if you didn't understand, now I am teaching you that love is not a feeling. It is something that you do. Love is actually giving. When you read 1 Corinthians chapter 13, verse 13, it says faith, hope, and love. But the greatest of all these is love, which means love is the greatest of all these. You can have faith, you can have hope, and love should be the greatest of all these things. 1 Peter chapter 4, verse 8 says, love covers a multitude of sin. So if the person has committed many sins, love covers it all. So if you have these attributes of love and you are in a relationship, love should cover it all. You shouldn't even see it. You may think that you are crazy. You're not. But you see, what you give, you always get more. Whatever you give, you always get more. And that is what everyone should be concentrating on. Love. That is what you should look at. 1 John chapter 4, verse 7 to 8. It says that love comes from God. Everyone who loves has been born by God and knows God. So the Christians who are in marriages and they say they love their husbands, they love their spouses, and they are communicating badly and they are misbehaving in their marriages and making their marriages so uncomfortable. Do you know God? Do you know the scripture? Do you believe in what the scripture is saying? This is something you should think about. This is something you should look at very carefully. 1 John chapter 4, verse 7 to 8. Everyone who loves has been born of God and knows God. Because the sort of love God has for us, the sort of forgiveness, compassion, and mercy that God has for us? Is that what we have for our spouse? Is that what we are developing and building and growing to have for our spouse? If that is not it, then we should consider whatever that we are doing. Proverbs chapter 3 verse 3 says, let love and loyalty always show like a necklace, and write them in your minds. Proverbs chapter 3 verse 3. Is that what you are exhibiting in your marriage? Is that what you are exhibiting in your relationship? Is that what you are showing to the person that you say you love? Love and loyalty always showing like a necklace, and written in your mind, that you always have the person up in your mind. Yes, most times people assume, and most partners assume that their spouses don't care or don't think or don't love them. Let them assume. But you always act it. Act with love. Act with compassion. Forgive. Don't hold on to grudges. Don't hold on to their sins. And allow love to grow. Because you can grow it. There's a very, very wonderful verse in Psalms. Psalm 81 verse 10. Love and loyalty will come together. Goodness and peace will unite you. So everything that has to do with love, like I keep saying, is not a feeling. When you read Mark chapter 12 verse 31, it says clearly, love your neighbor as yourself. There is no commandment that is greater than this. Are you loving your spouse the way you want to be loved? Are you treating your spouse the way you want to be treated? If not, then you really need to consider the sort of love, the sort of attention that you're giving to your spouse. Romans chapter 13 verse 10 states clearly, love does not harm. Love does no harm to its neighbor. Therefore, love is the fulfillment of the law. How can you be in love with your wife? How can you be in love with your wife? How can you be in love with your husband and cause harm? Verbal abuse, physical abuse, emotional abuse, sexual abuse, financial abuse. How can this happen if you say you love your partner and you believe and accept that you are a Christian? I am not throwing it at Christians. Christians need to practice Christianity. That is the core of attaining a Christ-like life. So if you do not know, now you know that Luke chapter 3 verse 35 says that love your enemies and do good to them and lend them without expecting anything back. Then your reward will be great and you will be sons of the Most High, because He is kind to the ungrateful and wicked. Do you love your enemies? People who show clearly that they don't like you, do you love them? The question is, are you a Christian? Are you practicing Christianity? Do you want to live a Christian life, a God-filled Christian life? The issue is not going to church every Sunday. The issue is not paying your tithe. The issue is not going around and standing on the streets and doing evangelism. The most important thing is living the Christ-like life. Is that what you're doing? Does a Christian life reflect in your everyday attitude, in the everyday way of life, in everyday way of doing things? Does a Christ-like life reflect in it? Take note of this. 1 John chapter 4 verse 18 to 19. It says that there's no fear in love. but perfect love drives away fear. If you really love somebody, you will not fear. Fear has to do with punishment. Once you fear, you're going to punish the person. Love has no fear. The one who has no fear is made of perfect love. We love because first, we love us. We love because He first loves us. God loves us. But when you fear, you end up punishing somebody. So go read it again. 1 John chapter 4, verse 18 and 19. Why do you fear that the person that has told you loves you would leave you? Insecurity in there, uncertainty. But you see, focus on the positives. Do whatever you can to love that person, and even let that person ditch you. What you sow, you always reap more. Ephesians chapter 5, verse 25 says, husbands, love your wife, just as Christ loved the church and gave Himself up to the church. How many of us husbands do this? Most times, what we are doing or what we think we are doing, our spouses don't see it. But don't be worried. Still do what you have to do. Sacrifice and love. Continue to love your wife. Continue to love your husband. No matter what it is, just keep loving. And definitely your reward will come. Ephesians chapter 5, verse 23 states that, however, each one of you also must love his wife as he loves himself. And the wife must also respect the husband. It is obvious here that men demand respect and wives would demand love. Women, respect your husbands and they would love you. Husbands, love your wives and they will respect you. If you want happiness in your home, this is exactly what you need to do. Husbands, love your wives and they will respect you. Wives, respect your husbands and they will love you. This is a two-way thing. Don't expect that your husband should love you first before you respect him. Don't expect that your wife should respect you first and then you'll love her. Do your side of the deal. For a man, your side of the deal is to love your wife. When you love your wife, she will respect you. And for your side of the deal of the woman, respect your husband and she will love you. Do your side. We are still talking about communication in marriage. Communicating love to your husband. Communicating love to your wife. That is what I'm sharing with you today. Now, it is important that when you are talking, understand that you can't edit someone's personality to suit your taste. This may ruin that person's happiness and bring unhappiness to you. When you attempt to change somebody to become like you, it doesn't work. You are different, the person is different. The person was brought up by a completely different parent. The person was brought up from a completely different environment, had different circumstances growing up from yours, and you don't expect the person to become like you. It can never happen. So you see, you can't edit somebody's life to suit yours. And I'm saying, even if you succeed to do so, you may not even be happy. You should understand that. Most people want to change people, forgetting that if you want to change, the change should start from you. It is not easy to to attempt to change somebody if the person is unwilling to change. And the only way you can affect change or influence change is when you become the change. When you do the changes, your changes would affect and influence the other person to change. And I tell you, when you succeed in changing that person, you will not even like the person, because then, do you even love all your... Are you perfect? But I tell you again, a change should start from you yourself. When you're communicating in your marriage, you have to be committed to really listen and hear, not just with your ear, but also with your heart. Let me say this again. When you're communicating in your marriage, you have to learn to communicate not just by listening with your ear, but you also have to listen with your heart. Most times, people assume good communication can open doors. It can foster and forge strong relationships. It can bring connection and more understanding between two people when you communicate well. And then also, you would want to do everything you can to ensure that you have quality communication in your relationship. And to have quality communication, you have to hear whatever the person says with love, and you have to respect your spouse when your spouse is speaking, and make sure that you don't assume what your spouse is saying or what your spouse intends. Your ability to effectively and persuasively communicate determines the level of fulfillment you would achieve in your marriage. If you are determined to have quality in your relationship with your spouse and with your children, if you communicate bad in your home, this will become a destructive factor in your children, because you and your husband, you mirror your children. Whatever your children are doing, whatever language they speak, whatever attitude they have, is a reflection of you, the parents. So if you don't respect each other, you don't talk to each other with love and with care, the same way your children will grow up to adapt that sort of communication skills. That is how they are also going to grow up to become. Poor communication is the number one cause of unhappiness in most marriages, and leads and is the number one cause of divorce. Poor communication. Your ability to effectively and persuasively communicate determines the level of fulfillment that you're going to have in your marriage. I've been talking about how to communicate persuasively and effectively. If you look at Proverbs chapter 18 verse 21, it says that death and life are in the power of the tongue. Those who love it will eat of its fruit. So you really need to watch your tongue, because death and life lies in the tongue. Proverbs chapter 16 verse 23. The heart of the wise teaches his mouth and adds learning to his lips. So when you are wise and you think you are the husband, you are the leader of the house, and you are wise, everything that comes out of your mouth should teach. People should learn from your lips. And the sort of things you throw out will determine whether people in your home, your wife, your children, are going to learn from you or not. The heart of the wise teaches his mouth and adds learning to his lips. So everything that comes out of your mouth, people should learn from it. Watch the way you throw out words, especially when your children are around. Be careful the things you throw out, especially to the woman, to the man that you say you love, because the tongue carries power to kill and to heal. Proverbs chapter 15 verse 2 states clearly, the tongue of the wise uses knowledge rightly, but the mouth of the fools pours out foolishness. You see, when you become angry and you are pouring out words, the Bible says that you are pouring out foolishness. You think you are angry and you are pouring out your heart, but you see, the tongue of the wise will use knowledge wisely, but that of the fool will pour out foolishness. When you are angry, record yourself. When you are angry and you are talking, record yourself. And when you are done, play back and listen to the madness. I'm sure that's why the Americans call anger madness, because it is actually madness. We've all experienced this sort of life before, but you need to change. You need to learn. No matter where you've got into, no matter how bad your relationship has been, no matter how worse relationships you've been in before, you need to learn and change. You need to tone down on pride, arrogance, and choice of words, especially when you're talking to people that you say you love. The heart of the wise teaches his mouth and adds persuasiveness to his lips. The heart of the wise. If you are wise, your mouth, you teach your mouth to add persuasiveness to your lips and not throw out insults. It's amazing that Christians have all this and don't apply. Proverbs chapter 12 verse 14 states clearly that a man shall be satisfied with the good by the fruits of his mouth. By the fruits of the good that comes out of your mouth, you will be satisfied. The same way, you will be unhappy from the fruits that come out of your mouth. If the fruits that are coming out of your mouth are bad, you can never be satisfied. If the fruits that are coming out of your mouth are good, then you can't be satisfied. So it is important to check the things that fall out of your mouth. If you want to communicate effectively and persuasively and have good communication and happiness at home, you need to read Proverbs chapter 13 verse 2. A man shall eat from the good fruits that comes from his mouth. Proverbs chapter 18 verse 20 states clearly, a man's belly shall be filled with the fruits of his mouth, and with the increase of his lips he shall be filled. So everything that is good that comes out of your mouth, to your spouse, to your children, to your relationships, to people around you, people you work with, would bring goodness, would bring happiness, would bring peace, success to you. But if you pour forth foolishness, you are unwise. Proverbs chapter 12 verse 18 states clearly, it said, there's one who speaks like the piercing of a sword, but the tongue of the wise brings health. There are people who admit and in trees the media manu ya. I'm to manu yo. When you say it, I'll reply you. I'll pay you exactly the way you are speaking back to me. But you see, Proverbs chapter 12 verse 18 is saying that when your mouth and your words pierce like a sword, you don't bring health in anywhere you communicate. But you see, the one whose tongue doesn't pierce like a sword is wise and brings wealth and health. If your words pierce like a sword, you bring sorrow and poverty into your life. That is what the Bible tells us. Proverbs chapter 10 verse 21. The lips of the righteous feeds many, but fools die for the want of wisdom. So if you are not wise, if your lips are not righteous, you will go hungry. It is your mouth that will bring people to you. It is your mouth and the words that you use that will bring help If you are using persuasive language, that will bring compassion. People will get to like you. If your words are always poisonous, you drive away people, and you will lack wisdom because you will not even listen. You think you know it all. You think you are the best. You know everything in the world. But that is foolishness, my brother. That is foolishness, my sister. You can't live alone. The world, you can't live like an island. You always need somebody. And before you can live and get people to support you, your words will either bring people closer to you or take people away from you. We just can't say whatever we want to say to our partners and to people that we say we love. We have to think through and do some mental editing before we speak. After all, even when we are sending text messages on phone, don't we read through before we push send? Do we just type and push send? And when we push send and we see there's an error, don't we quickly delete? But don't forget that when you speak and it drops, you can't pick and delete. So you need to be careful. You need to think about it. You need to do that mental editing properly before you drop those words, because those words can heal and those words can kill. It's very important that you think through whatever you want to say before you say it. Now let's look at Proverbs chapter 22, verse 11. He who loves purity of the heart and has grace on his lips, the king will be his friend. When you have grace on your lips, if you know how to talk, if you learn how to talk, and your heart is pure, even the king will love to be a friend. The presidents will love to be your friend. Leaders will love to be your friend. Big people, rich people will want to be your friend when your lips is filled with grace. But when your lips are filled with insults and abuse and disrespect, nobody would want to come close to you. Don't take that position you have in the office as you are everything in the world. Don't take your looks because you are beautiful, because you are fair, because you have some nice skin, nice backside. Because of that, you don't respect anybody, you talk to anybody anyhow. I tell you, you may get what you have, you may be in where you are, but I tell you, you may not be the happiest person. You may snatch people's husbands, snatch people's wives and all that stuff because of the way you look. Don't forget that whatever you sow, you reap more. It may not come now, but definitely it will come one time. It will come. That's it. Proverbs chapter 18 verse 13 states clearly, he who answers a matter before he hears is like folly and shall be put to shame. When you're communicating persuasively and effectively, if you want to communicate persuasively and effectively, you should hear the whole matter before you talk. Allow people to talk. Oh, let them also speak their mind. Let them also say what they want to say. You don't know it all. But you see, if you don't allow them to talk, you jump in, you cut in, you stop them from also expressing themselves. When you get to hear the whole story, you see how foolish you are and you'll be put to shame. So allow people. When your spouse is expressing him or herself, allow, sit, listen to it all. Let the person talk before you come out to say something. Very, very important that you allow people to speak. Listen deep before you check, before you talk. So most people just jump to conclusions and assume what the person is going to say. Jump to conclusions and then kill the person even when the person has not even said or intended to say what you are thinking. Always ask if you don't understand. If you don't get the meaning, always inquire. Get the real meaning. Let's get to Proverbs chapter 29 verse 11. A fool gives full vent to his anger, but the wise man quietly holds it back. When you are angry and you give a full vent, you definitely have to do something when you are angry. The Bible says you're a fool. When you get angry, and you definitely have to take action. Insult, fight, quarrel, create mayhem, destroy things. The Bible says that if you are that kind of a person, you are a fool. And the Bible says that a wise person, after all that, will hold back, taking a deep breath, breathing deep, breathing out, breathe out, and make peace and calm the situation, or not rather worsen the situation. But if you are that type that would have to vent your anger, the Bible says you are a fool. It's in Proverbs chapter 29 verse 11. It's amazing. Christians have this book, they don't use it. Let's get to Proverbs chapter 29 verse 20. Proverbs chapter 29 verse 20. Do you see a man who is hasty in words? Do you see a man who is hasty in his words? There's no hope. There is no hope for a fool than for him. If you are hasty in your words, the Bible is saying that a fool even has hope than you. I am not saying it, it's the Bible. Those of you who say you are Christians and you get angry and insult each other, even at church, you get angry and insult your friends, your children, people around you. The Bible says that if you are hasty in your words, if you are quick, you talk chop 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 chop. If you are quick in your words, there's hope for a fool than you. That's what Proverbs is saying. And then those who always talk, everything you will talk, you will never keep quiet to listen. Proverbs chapter 10 verse 19 says that in the multitude of words sin is not lacking, but he who restrains his lips is wise. Obi a okasa pin bon some funkutin of number, but obi a otuna numun nyansa sem enoka. If you talk too much, you pour out foolishness. But if you restrain your lips, you are wise. Because when you are restraining your lips, you are thinking, you are doing that mental editing I'm talking about before you talk. So if you are a wife and you talk jab, you are a husband, you talk jab, you are pouring out your foolishness. You are not communicating effectively and persuasively. And the person who guides his mouth will preserve life. If you guide your lips, you guide the things you say, you would preserve your own life. But he who opens his mouth wide will ruin his life. Proverbs chapter 13 verse 3. He who guides his mouth preserves his life, but he who opens his mouth wide and talks, you ruin your own life. That is what Proverbs chapter 13 verse 3 is saying. You talk too much, my brother. You talk too much, my sister. Listen, edit. Think through before you talk to the person that you say you love. It is key to listen, and it pays to listen. Proverbs chapter 12 verse 23. A prudent man takes knowledge, but the heart of the fool proclaims foolishness. If you are a fool, you only take foolishness. You only accept foolish things. But the heart of the prudent man, the wise man, always take wise things. If you are wise, you speak wise. You speak wisdom. If you are foolish, you speak foolishness. And it is all up to us to decide which direction to channel our mind's power. And if you want to communicate effectively and persuasively, you have to speak wisdom. That anything that drops out of your mouth, people should learn from. Proverbs chapter 17, verse 27 to 28. He who restrains his words has knowledge, and he who has cold spirit is like a man of understanding. He who has cool spirit is a man of understanding. Even a fool who keeps silent is considered wise. He who closes his lips is deemed as intelligent. So you see, when you talk plenty, you are seen as foolish. When you restrain your mouth, when you control the things you say, you have knowledge. You think. When you have that cool spirit, you are seen as a man of understanding. But when you are that boisterous, always active, always angry, you are deemed as foolish. But you see, even the people that you see as foolish, when they become cool, they are considered wise. So if you think you are wise by shouting, you think you are wise by raining insults, you think you are wise by destroying things, my brother, my sister, I'm telling you, rather being foolish. Because even when the fool you consider to be fool, kept quiet while you were misbehaving, that person is considered wiser than you are. Simple. So that wife of yours that you think is foolish, that you are raining insults at the time that she kept quiet, you are rather being foolish and she being wise. Whoever hides hatred has a lying lips, and whoever spreads slander is a fool. The Bible says it in Proverbs chapter 10 verse 18. If you hide hatred, you are a liar. You have a lying lips. And when you hear stories about people and you spread it, you are a fool. The Bible says it clearly. So the wives who listen to other people and create mayhem from their homes, the Bible is saying that you are a fool. Proverbs chapter 10 verse 18 says it clearly, that if you are spreading slander, you've heard some bad story about people and you are just spreading it, the Bible says you are a fool. And this can bring a lot of problems in your communication at home, between yourself and your husband, and lead to the misunderstandings and the problems you are having. Proverbs chapter 10 verse 18. Go read it. Now look at Proverbs chapter 15 verse 23. It says that a man has joy by the answer of his mouth, and a word spoken in due season, how good it is. When you answer questions well. Some people are so cheeky. Simple question, they throw a cheek at you. Simple question, they throw it at you. Slow down a bit, because the way you answer your questions will bring peace and happiness into your marriage. If you really want to communicate effectively and persuasively, these are the things you should know. You should remember that the tongue of the wise makes knowledge acceptable. The tongue of the wise makes knowledge acceptable. That is the heart of effective communication. Words have power. Mind what you say. Let me repeat it. I'm saying words have power. So mind what you say. Proverbs chapter 11 verse 9. The hypocrite with his mouth destroys his neighbor, but through knowledge the righteous will be delivered. The hypocrite with his words will destroy people. My brother, my sister, my father, my mother, my daughter, my son, don't be a hypocrite. Don't destroy people with your words. Don't destroy people with the things that you say. Most times you don't even know what you're talking about. You just heard it and you are spreading it. Proverbs chapter 12 verse 22 says that lying lips are abominations to the Lord, but they that deal with the truth are his delight. When you lie, it's an abomination to the Lord. It's said in Proverbs chapter 12 verse 22. But when you speak the truth, God himself delights in what you've done. So why should you lie? But remember that the righteous lips are a delight of kings, and they love him that speaks right. I'm saying that the righteous lips are a delight to the king. When you are righteous, you have big people talking to you, being around you. But when you lie, everybody that big around you will be like you. And a false witness, no matter what it is, shall never go unpunished. And he that lies shall not escape. It is said in Proverbs 19 verse 5. You don't have to have a lying lips. You should speak the truth at all times. You should have control over yourself. The major reasons why most marriages never achieve much is because couples never gain control over their own selves. That's the problem. Couples just follow the waves and live like a car without a steering wheel, without a driver. So they live with no direction. And if you are living a marriage with no direction, you go nowhere. Proverbs chapter 25 verse 28 says, a man without self-control is like a city broken into and left without walls. Anything can happen to you. Anyone can attack you if you are a man and you don't have self-control. If you are a woman and you don't have self-control, anything can attack you. So it's important that we have control of ourselves. Without counsel, plans go wrong. But with counsel, we succeed. Proverbs 15:22. And you need to take advice. Take advice from your spouse. That is the reason why you wanted to be partners. You wanted to share together. You wanted to live together. So if you want to live together, then you should share together. You should take advice from your spouse. It doesn't matter your educational level. The fact that the two of you lie on the same bed, you become one, because the Bible says, and the two shall be one. No one is bigger than the other when you are in marriage. You are partners, equal partners in a relationship. Be accountable to each other. Be accountable to each other. Follow through a vision. Follow through a map. Most of us are married without a plan. We just go to work in the morning, come back in the evening, do whatever you have to do, go back to work. We don't have a plan. And without a plan, people fail. Every step that you take, you should take it together. You should plan it together. And you should test those plans before you implement them. Sit, talk, share. This is what is lacking in most marriages. And if we are able to sit, plan, we will succeed. We'll have an equal aim, equal goal, and we will work towards attaining those goals. But most marriages, the wife is too busy, feels too big, has a big job, look too beautiful, is concentrating on herself. The husband feels too big, has a big job, drives a big car, doesn't care, feels that I have to just bring money home, doesn't care. And when there's no plan, people fail. And that is the reason why most relationships are failing. There's one thing that you need to do. You need to take very good note of. Speak when you are angry, and you will make one of the best speeches you will forever regret. I'm saying, speak when you are angry, and you will make one of the best speeches you will forever regret. When you are angry, think through things you say. When issues come up, talk about it. Stay focused on that issue and find a solution to it. And even offer solutions and suggestions. Offer suggestions to the problem. Stop talking at each other. Stop blaming the person, and stop blaming back past hurts. Use I feel instead, or you make me feel. Because when you use you make me feel, you are blaming the person, and the person would defend himself. Nobody wants to be blamed, you know. You should have control over your emotions. And remember that this person is the one you say you love, and you would want to maintain that good relationship with that person for the rest of your life. So it is important to check these things. Some of these things block communications. Rolling your eye while your spouse is talking to you is a sign of disrespect. It's a sign that you don't care what the spouse is talking about. Responding, do whatever. Do you have anything to talk about again? When your spouse is talking to you, you are asking whether your spouse has any other thing to talk about. All you are doing is trying to avoid an unwanted conversation, a conversation that you do not want. This is a barrier to effective communication. And then also, yearning and looking bored. This is lack of respect. When your spouse is telling you something that she feels needs attention, something that she thinks you should look at, something that she thinks you should talk about. When your husband is talking to you and needs your attention, when somebody you're in a relationship with is talking to you and needs your attention, you are yawning and looking bored and not showing interest in what the person is talking about. This is gross disrespect. And if you disrespect your spouse, the spouse disrespects you, your relationship is gone. You should note that. Repeatedly looking at your watch. All you are telling and communicating back to the person is what you're saying is useless. Shut up. It's time I have to leave. You don't have to be doing these things when you're communicating with your spouse and you want effective results. You are watching television, your focus is on television while the person is talking to you, or you are busily on your phone chatting or playing a computer game. You are one way or the other telling your spouse whatever he or she is saying is useless, stupid, you should just shut up. That is not way. You're blocking communication. And once the person adapts, you will not communicate effectively anymore. Playing, replying nothing. When the person says so, what do you say? You say nothing. It means whatever the person says is useless. All these things are barriers to effective communications in your relationships, and you need to look at it. And when the person is talking back and the person asks you a question, you say that whatever is fine. Whatever you want is fine. Whatever you want to do is fine. That is not a good way of communicating. And then also, when you always find faults, you are always right. Everything your spouse does is wrong. You're always blaming someone else. But have you forgotten that 90% of the things that happen to us are caused by us ourselves? If you would ask, if you would check, you will know that most of the things that happen to us are caused by us ourselves, 90% of it. So stop apportioning blame and finding faults. Most times, you also play like you are the professor. You know everything. You don't show any empathy. You don't show any emotions. You are so hard. You are so stiff. Never bending. You don't stay in a relationship like that. You don't stay in a marriage like that, my brother. You don't stay in a relationship like that, my sister. You have to bend a little. You have to slow down a little. And then also, most people, when there's conflict, they change subjects. They ignore what the spouse is saying, pick different subjects, and then want to show to the spouse that whatever you're saying to me is not important. This is what I want us to talk about. If you really want to communicate effectively and persuasively, then you should remove these communication barriers. Because these are barriers that will not allow communication to become better in your relationship. Interrupting your partner. Never allowing your partner to finish a sentence. You are always in there. Allow the person to talk. Allow the person to express him or herself. When you do so, the people should keep quiet and never talk again. And then also, contempt and belittling your spouse. Because you are more educated, because you have a fine job, because you have more money, because you think you marry the person and you are considering him being with him, or you are considering her being with her, you belittle her, you belittle him, and you forget that when you get on bed, the two of you become one. Don't belittle your spouse. Name calling. One time, a gentleman sent me a message saying that the wife is a prostitute, and you still love the woman, and you're still with the woman, you're calling the woman a prostitute. Name calling. Calling names. You never change. You are this, you are that, you are that. When you do so, you are blocking communication, cursing your spouse, the same person that you are one with. You are cursing him, you are cursing her. When you curse your spouse and lay in bed with your spouse, you have cursed yourself as well, because the two become one, pointing fingers at each other, getting to each other's face. These are things that we should look at. And some people become overly defensive and so angry. It's a relationship. It's a friendly relationship. It is not a war. It is not a World Cup, but a friendly relationship. You need to slow down a little with your anger. You need to slow down a little at winning every argument. It is not an intellectual masturbation you are having, if I should borrow Koko Bako's words. You are just talking to find a solution to a problem. It is not war. It's a friendly relationship. You shouldn't always win. You should bend a little. You should bend a little. And then for some people too, they usually bring unrelated issues. When there's an issue to discuss that particular issue. Leave all unrelated issues. Leave them. Don't bring them in. Stonewalling is also one of the things that brings or blocks relationships and blocks yourselves from communicating. Having a best friend other than your spouse is another block that you should look at. Like I discussed, mobile phones and social media issues, you should also discuss them and have a permanent way of dealing with these things, because these things can also lead to bringing misunderstanding and blocking communication in your relationship. And also not being transparent to each other, hiding stuff, hiding secrets, having stuff that your husband doesn't know about, having stuff that your wife doesn't know about, doing things that your husband doesn't know about. Yes, we may all be guilty one way or the other, but we have to learn to change. We have to learn to do better. Your wife is talking to you, your husband is talking to you, you ask, are you done? All these things will make communication continue. You need to learn to improve your communication skills. Calm yourself down before you communicate to your spouse. That's the first thing you need to do. Calm yourself down. Don't jump to conclusions and don't assume anything. If you don't understand anything, don't feel hurt. Just ask the person, what did you mean? What you said I didn't understand. This is the way I took it. Is that what you meant? And then let's get discussing. Instead of assuming and taking what your spouse said to be not what your spouse intended, it's not really good. So you need to ask. Work as a team with your spouse. When you are talking, work as a team. Give your spouse your undivided attention when you are in any conversation. It simply means look into this person's eye. Respond when you have to respond. Talk when you have to talk. Listen when you have to listen. You have to learn to do effective listening when you are present and not absent-minded when you're talking to the person. Make eye contact with your spouse when you are talking to each other. Eye contact is important. At least your spouse gets to know that I am here, you are here, and we are communicating. Keep your attention focused on the present moment. Focus on what you're talking about now and leave all other issues aside. Show respect to your spouse's opinion, beliefs, and ideas. Show respect to them. Even if you think they are not right at the moment, just don't worry. Just focus. Allow. Because there will be a time that you can talk back. There will be a time that you can get your views ahead. Stay on that topic at a time. Stay on that topic. Don't bring in other topics that are not related to what you're talking about today. It's important that you don't make references to past issues, because those past issues are past. You may have dealt with them already, and leave them there. Summarize whatever you heard. Let the person hear. Oh, so all that you're saying, this is the way I understood it. Am I right? If you're not right, the person then expresses or explains further. If you are right, take it. Work on yourself, because you are the only one who can bring change. Talk about the problem and not the person. You speak to the person and not at the person. Women, don't press him to give you answers. Don't press him to give you answers. Don't press her to give you answers. When you speak, the person says, give me time. Okay, we'll talk about it. Leave it. You have expressed yourself. You have shared your opinion. You have shared your view. Let it go. And wait for the person to come back at you. Because most times, when you say those things, you force the person to speak out of anger. Maybe the person is just trying to cool off. And men, don't lie. Don't lie at anything. Women, don't lie at anything. Speak the truth, no matter how hard it is. There's one thing that most women do not know. It's called the SWOT principle. Because most women say that they never get their husbands to listen to them. But using the SWOT principle, you can use the SWOT principle to get your spouse to listen to you. Now, what is the SWOT principle? The SWOT principle actually states that you never communicate information that you consider important without first getting a burning, curious attention from the listener. I'm saying it again. The SWOT principle states that never communicate information that you value or you take as important to somebody without getting the person's burning curiosity to hear what you have to say. Because if what you're saying is important to you and the person is not interested, the person will not hear you. There are some basic steps you can use to get somebody to listen to you when you are using the SWOT principle. The first one is, first of all, set yourself. Identify what you want to communicate. Because most times, people want to talk and they don't even know what they want to talk about. So whatever that you value, that you want to communicate, bring that out. Think about it, what you're going to communicate. And then, listen to yourself. Look deep down in yourself. Identify and rate the person that you are going to talk to. The person's interest in what you want to share. Rate it yourself. If you think the person will not see what you are saying as important, then there's the need to learn the SWOT principle. You think what you're saying is important, but the person doesn't see what you're saying as important. So you need to raise the person's interest to a certain level before you pass whatever information that you want to pass to the person. So I'm going to show you some basic tips, like we're saying, all the basic steps as to how you go and do it. What you do is also you share enough information to stimulate his or her curiosity for the person to want to hear more. What you do is, you know the person is not really interested in what you're saying, but you have to find something to say to whip up the person's interest for the person want to hear more. And when the person wants to hear you and the person gives you that undivided attention before you throw out whatever information that you want to say, you add a little bit of the information the person wants to hear. Don't give an answer to his or her first response. Rather, add more salt. The salt is adding the curiosity. Build up the person's curiosity so the person will be willing to listen to you. And until then, you don't pass the information out. So, use short questions to gain commitment from the person you're communicating to pursue your interest. Use short questions. After all this, if he or she is still not sufficiently interested in whatever you want to communicate, either you continue to create more curiosity in the person, or don't pass the information on. Because once you do so, the person will listen to you. But what don't you do when you are using the SWOT principle? What don't you have to do? When I finish, I'll give you a typical example of how you can use the SWOT principle to get someone to communicate with you. Don't begin with a plead, or can I talk to you, or request, can I get your attention? Once you do so, somebody who doesn't want to talk to you is thinking, what is he going to talk about? What's he coming up with it? And or before you start, the person creates a defense wall. So you have to make sure that you don't prompt the person or begin with please can I talk to you, or request to have the person's attention. You don't have to do so. You have to use something that will get the person's attention, say something that will get the person's attention, and then use that to get whatever information you want to pass across. Then don't start with the main concern, don't start with what you want to talk about. Start with something else, and then eventually putting what you want to talk about. And then don't persuade the person to listen to you. Please listen to me, I want to talk to you. Please give me your attention, I want to talk to you. Don't plead. Use the SWOT principle to whip up the person's interest to listen to you. I'm going to show you a typical example. And then I'm going to show you a typical example. Like I said, don't persuade. A typical example is you want to talk to your husband about something that your child needs, maybe a school fees or something. Your husband is just close to mind. So all you do is, you know that your husband loves football. So let's say your husband loves see Ronaldo. So you see your husband sitting watching football. You come to him, oh, have you heard what C. Ronaldo has done? And then all of a sudden your husband gets your attention because he's interested in C. Ronaldo. And I say, oh, what has C. Ronaldo done? And then you go further and say, oh, you won't believe what I heard he has done. What has he done? Because I've not heard it. Your husband is always watching football and all attention to the game and stuff. So how come I've not heard anything that C. Ronaldo has done? If I tell you, you'll be amazed. You'll be amazed at what I heard. But anyway, do you know that we haven't paid the fees of Kojo, and we need to sort it out because I had a SMS from the school that we need to pay the fees. Whatever you want to pass across has been passed across. Nothing concerning C. Ronaldo, but you just got him to listen to not paying the fees. And I'm sure from that point, he's going to attend to the fees thing and want to know what C. Ronaldo has done. This is an example of using the SWOT principle. And you can try it with your children. You can try it in all ways. You use something that the person is interested in to whip the person's interest before you pass whatever information that you see as valuable, before you pass it to him. You create the person's unburning curiosity to listen to you, and then you chip in what you see as important and even leave what you started with. Very, very important tip and trick that you can use in communicating with people who hardly listen. And it works in all ways. You should also know your love languages. You should also understand your love languages. And you should love your spouse in your spouse's love language. I'm going to do one talk on love languages where I'm going to explain all the details as how I understood it from the professor's book. And he said that the 5 love languages are words of affirmation, quality time, having quality time and quality conversation, gifts, acts of service, and physical touch. I'm going to be talking about that in my subsequent broadcast on my YouTube channel. So keep watching. I'm sure you've learned something amazing today, and it's going to help you communicate well with your spouse and make your relationship a better one. I have a couple of these videos on relationships on my YouTube channel, Welcome to Mr. Smooth. And if you like this video, subscribe to my YouTube channel and click the bell, like it. There'll be more coming. And we are just looking at educating relationships, educating people, get their marriages working well. And if you have any relationship issues, The contact is 0244 66 1011. If you are not in Ghana, you can add the Ghana code 233 plus 233 to it. So plus 233 0244 66 1011. Whatever relationship problem you're having, whatever sex issue you're having, whatever reproductive issues you're having, you just call me. Men who are having premature ejaculations, women who are having issues where they don't feel anything and they feel their private areas a little loose. There are basic exercises and trainings that I do in my sessions to help men overcome premature ejaculations permanently without drugs, and help women have the feeling and sensation back in their private areas without drugs. See you next time with another wonderful education. I'm the host of Adult Class on GNTV and ATV. The show is Adult Class, and my name is Papa Pamina. You can call me Mr. Smooth for short. Thank you for watching and liking the video. May God bless you.